Welcome back to Why We Write Fantasy. My name is Oscar Cesena,
And I'm KJ Yellow.
and today we're talking about writing in the age of AI. So we know that AI is a pretty big topic today, so we want to kind of give our thoughts on how it will impact writing, reading, and anything in between.
Yeah, and I think Oscar is definitely the expert to do this. I don't really know anything about AI, so this is definitely, I'm going to be asking Oscar probably a lot of the questions that you have if you're not a software engineer like me, but Oscar is. Yeah.
Okay, so before we dive into the topic, let's talk quickly about what are we reading. So KJ, what's in
Yes.
your
I started
bedside
reading,
table?
yeah, on my bedside table. I started reading this like 36 hours ago
Mhm.
in the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. But it's such a great book. I love TJ Klune. He is very quickly becoming one of my favorite authors because he writes queer fantasy, but it's like urban fantasy. It's almost always. I don't think it ever has not been set in our world. But what he does is it's this sweet, cozy humor, but he also digs really deep into a lot of human issues of belonging, of identity, of queerness, of family, that sort of thing. So this one, really quick really quick overview, is about a boy, human boy, who was raised by robots, and just go from there. It's such a sweet book. There is like a neurotic robot, a vacuum cleaner. There is a sociopathic robot nurse. It's just like, it's so awesome. So I'm about a third of the way through. I'm probably going to finish it in like 2 days. That's me in the Lives of Puppets, TJ Klune. What about you, Oscar?
I am reading The Lies of Locke Lamora. So this is a book that it's been in my bookshelf for quite a bit. Honestly, I'm so sad that it has been in my bookshelf for so long because it's amazing. So the author is Scott Lynch, and so Locke Lamora is the protagonist, and the story
Mm-hmm.
is about him and his criminal friends. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
he's a total anti-hero. He's a thief. He's a con artist. He's um, manipulative, but it's still really like he's very likable. And
Right.
yeah, and one of the things that I noticed, which I was surprised, because it's not really high fantasy. It's not a like massive battles or the things that I usually like to read. It's
Mm-hmm.
more like kind of like a character driven story in a really small world. Because most
Mm-hmm.
of the story takes place in the city of Kamar,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't expand like that. It's not I mean, not that I was expecting Middle Earth or Westeros, but it doesn't look like it will expand to that point. It's more like this is a city. This is ruled by criminals and everything. And Locke and his band of criminals are part of it, and it's just so good. Like it has like I would say the perfect balance between crime,
Yeah.
fantasy, adventure, and humor. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually it actually like a couple of times I laughed out loud, but
And
reading
that's a
this
surprise. Oscar
that I
doesn't
mean
laugh.
I do laugh when it's like
It's
good
very serious.
with good jokes. Like if I'm reading Terry Pratchett, I'm always laughing. But if I'm reading into like silly fantasy, no, I'm not gonna laugh.
Silly
I'm gonna roll
fantasy.
my eyes.
Which he does it me a lot. He's always rolling. I think it's like eye strain whenever I'm around him. Anyways.
Okay, so that's good. My recommendation.
Nice.
I I just actually I'm like on page 105, and yesterday I went to buy the second book because I know that I'm going
Because
to,
it's that good.
yeah, I'm gonna like it.
Nice.
So
Yes. I was interviewing an author, Lauren B. Davis, quite some time ago, and she wrote a book about a library. Like a grimoire library where the books only show up when the visitor needs them the most, whether they need it or not.
mm,
So I feel that way about some of the books on my bookshelf that have been sitting there collecting dust, begging for me to come find them. It's And when I do find them and I pick them up, I'm always in the right headspace,
Hmm.
right? So maybe that book was sitting on your bookshelf until you need it the most. And this is the headspace that you are in. This is
Yeah.
the book you need right now, right?
It might be right because I like grim dark fantasy. I
Yeah.
like heavy, like thought provoking, dense type of
Yeah.
topics. And I'm actually, I know I wasn't thinking about saying this, but I'm reading, like I got from the library, Legends and Lattes.
We talked about this earlier. He's like, I'm not going to bring this up.
I
Okay,
wasn't
give
gonna
it.
bring it up
Give
because
it.
it's not my thing at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish it.
Yeah.
It's cozy. Like
It's not the book for you right now.
not it's not a book for me. Like any time, I think. It's well written. It's engaging.
Yeah.
It's funny because like while I'm reading like other books where I don't know the challenge is that they're gonna get killed or murdered or there's something like or the
Yeah.
massive like epic battle coming. The actual like problems like this character has is like does the coffee machine works or not and in a world where nobody knows what coffee is so it's so well done it's I'm not gonna talk bad because I don't think I can. It's just that it's too
It's not for you.
cozy and it's like I don't know. Like Nicholas Ames actually says here, uniquely beautiful and wonderfully wholesome. Nicholas Ames is the one that wrote Kings of the Wild that I just read,
Right.
um, and it is beautiful. It is
Is
funny.
it the
It's like
wholesome
yeah,
part
it's
that
super
you don't
lightweight.
like?
Like yeah, you don't nobody dies at least so far. I'm halfway, and well, it's
Yeah.
kind of like spoilers, but yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
this is
All
another
right.
one, which is it's
Fair
not
enough.
bad. Not bad. It's just
That's not the book you need,
no. I
period.
need like evil anti-heroes, and I
You
need
need people to
crime,
die.
and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like really gritty.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of my
Sounds like
thing.
you.
So anyway,
Okay. Yes.
so let's jump into our topic today. So
Yeah.
writing in the age of AI.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's get started on your background, Oscar. And this is why you are the expert in our, little group.
Out of the
Um,
two of us, yes, I'm the
Out of the
expert.
two of us, because I'm like half the time I can't figure out what's happening with my computer. But Oscar, tell me a bit about your background and why AI, particularly in writing, is
Mhm.
so important for you and right now.
So I have a degree in computer engineering, back in Mexico. And like all my life, I worked in tech. I've been working in tech for 25 years.
Right.
So, and it's something I really love. Like I love software. I love new things. I love every time that something new happens, I'm gonna be there trying to find out if I like it. Kind of like an early adopter. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's something that I feel that it it's a little misunderstood in
AI.
certain ways, but also I think it's and the reason why I say it's misunderstood, like I think there should be a lot of regulations around it, but I don't want to get
Yeah.
into politics and everything, but we should think as a society we need to regulate technology,
Yes.
because technology moves way faster than politics.
Yes.
like um, like every government is going to come up with laws, but the laws are going to cover things that happened 2 3 years ago, and we have
Yes.
something completely new. So
Yes. Look at Meta, look at social media.
all
Our
those
legislation
things,
always it works at such a snail's pace, whereas the tech industry is just like going so fast.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
And AI has been here for what 50 60 years maybe.
Yeah.
The things that it hasn't been as advanced as it is right now. Like I started, I actually had a couple of courses in university about AI, and we were programming with Lisp. That was the language that we used at the time
Right.
for Lisp and Smalltalk. Those two were the coding languages that we use for AI. And right now, it's a completely different animal. Like it's
Yeah.
there's with machine learning and everything, it has changed a lot. Like back then,
Yeah.
we had to tell. Like for example, let's say that you wanted to create software that you can ask him question like, "Hey, is this a book?" And before that I would have to input in the database what a book is. Like a book is a
Right.
collection of pages with a story, um, all those things. Like pages, yes. Story, yes.
Yeah.
Books plus 100 or something like that. And then with all
Yes.
these things, AI would start asking me like, okay, how many pages do they have? Like 100. Okay, then it is a book.
Hmm.
Now with machine learning, it has changed a lot. So right now it's more like the machines are learning. We're just telling them like, hey, here's a bunch of information about books. Read it,
Hmm.
and now describe to me what a book is. And with all the
Right.
information that comes in, it comes out with like, okay, a book is whatever a person would be able to tell you, and that's why it's
Right.
called generative AI, because it's generating all those things based on the things that the machine has learned in advance. This is like
Right.
a super I wouldn't say dumb, but like a super
It's a
simplified way
very
to
high
see it.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
extremely high level.
works for me. It's the same
I
way
mean,
for me.
there's so many nuances there and all that,
Yeah.
but there's you need someone who actually specializes in machine learning to
Yeah.
explain that. I think my point of view working in tech, not specialized in machine learning or AI, but also being a writer, I can see some things that will impact
Yeah.
the industry.
So let's get to that then. Is that we know that there's been a lot of discussions around AI and the creative field. Like we're seeing AI infiltrate into artwork now, and sometimes even appropriating some artists' artwork or ideas because
Hmm.
it's generative, right?
Yeah.
But we're also hearing a lot of conversations around AI writing poetry, writing novels, again, like very prescriptive type
Hmm.
work. So I don't think at this point we'll see the literary novel coming out of AI because just basically the bottom up approach of writing a literary novel is very nuanced and it's not something that a generative AI can do right now. But I'm wondering, I'd like your take because you're I'm just like, no, you can't take my job. But you're like, wait a second, KJ, like there's something here. So why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of what AI means in the writing world right now? Where are we sitting at?
Huh. Okay. So there's so many things in your
Oh my
question
god.
that
Should
it
I narrow that down?
no, it's so there are already novels written by
Yeah.
AI that you can purchase, mostly on like self-publishing platforms like Kindle and those things.
Yeah.
There's others that have been actually written by someone who actually uses AI to build it and create it.
Yeah.
The thing what happens and what you said about that is kind of like rudimentary in the way they are written is because AI, even though they can generate, I'm thinking the machines, they
Mhm.
can generate all this information. Comes all the information comes from the source of information they got to learn how to do
Right.
things. So if you ask a machine to say, you open ChatGPT right now and ask,
Mhm.
um, write a poem about a podcast on Shakespeare's style. It would
Mhm.
be pretty easy for ChatGPT to do it because there's so much Shakespeare and
Out there.
analysis of
Yeah.
Shakespeare out there. So you'll be able to, with all the information that ChatGPT has,
Mhm.
it will be really easy for it to build this poem.
Yeah.
But if you ask, write a letter in Oscar Cesena style, there's so little of me that I'm pretty sure it
Yeah.
will be flawed.
Yeah.
So again, like the way AI works is like it depends a lot on the information that you put in. Like if
Right.
you put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out. That's one of the things that we used to say as a developer, that it's garbage in, garbage out. But if you put
Yeah.
good quality information in there, you're gonna get good quality results.
Right.
Um,
So where does that land us then with AI and novel writing and going into the future? Like, can we change? Can we continually update the information that is put out there? Because I know that, um, me myself, I'm out there on the internet. I'm going to be a published author. I've got a lot of articles and essays out there. So, but when I input, write a description for KJILO into ChatGPT, there is nothing that comes up. And some
hmm,
of my other friends, the information is completely inaccurate. So I'm wondering how moving forward this is going to be evolving and how is that going to impact
right.
novel writing, period.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I want to mention. So ChatGPT is limited in the data that ChatGPT has is from kind of like the beginning of the internet until September 2021. So
Right.
if there's some information that you, KJ, added after that, ChatGPT wouldn't have it. Actually, if you go to ChatGPT and grab like one of the new books that just came out, even the ones
It
that
won't
just
have
came
it.
out, and they're massive, you won't have it, and it will tell you
Right.
like this book doesn't exist as of September 2021 because
Right.
that's the limit that ChatGPT has in the database.
Yeah.
Um, the like thinking about the how can it impact the writing world? I think right
Hmm.
now it's very minimal. Right now,
Okay.
right now, I mean, ChatGPT is able to generate descriptions, generate ideas. I think it's very useful sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, for example, if you have writer's block, you can ask ChatGPT for prompts.
Hmm.
Um, if you are like, for example, English is my second language. I make some grammatical or spelling mistakes.
Hmm.
So what I do is I put the paragraph in and I say, "Hey, ChatGPT." I mean, I don't say "Hey," it's not my friend, but I
What's
say
up,
like,
ChatGPT?
like hey, dude, uh, check the following paragraph and fix any grammar or spelling mistakes.
So it's like Grammarly. That's
Yeah.
what you're using it
It
as.
is different because Grammarly actually gives you some. Again, Grammarly is AI as well, but it gives you some suggestions on how to make it sound more professional, how to make it sound more, I don't know, casual. Like those things gives you all this.
Hmm.
The way I use ChatGPT in this case is just like I like the way it's written, I like the way it sounds. I just want to make sure that I'm not spelling something incorrectly.
Oh, I see.
That's kind of thing. So you can
So it
use it
keeps your
that
voice.
exactly. Yes. Keep my voice.
Right.
Is just fix. Like if I put an S instead of a Z, change that,
Right.
and that's
That could be
very
useful.
helpful. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very useful. But again, that's something that you can only do with generative AI.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but again, you can ask ChatGPT like, "Hey, write write a story about something," and ChatGPT will do its best based on the information again that it's available in their database.
Right.
So, and one of the things that happens is that I think most of us writers are like average writers.
Hmm.
Like it
Yeah.
actually, when you're reading something, and even like books that are really good and I love, sometimes their prose is okay.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
magnificent.
accessible.
Yeah, it's
Right.
accessible. So I
Yeah.
like it. I understand it. I'm
Hmm.
not here in for the prose. I'm here for the story, or I'm here for the character.
Right.
One of the things that I, for example, like I'm thinking about the name of the wind. The prose
Yeah.
that Patrick Rothfuss has is it's amazing. Like I can
Yeah.
I read that book just because the writing is beautiful.
It is so beautiful, but can Chat GPT replicate something like that?
It could if there was enough information with beautiful writing. But that's what I'm
So
saying. Like most of us are average writers, so
yeah.
most of the information that ChatGPT gets is average. So
So it can't
if
come up with
this
something new,
average,
like a
it
new
can,
voice or a new
right.
perspectives, that sort of thing. Right.
So one of the things that, and I think it's important for people to understand. For me, it's like easy because I know this, but it's not that ChatGPT thinks. What
Yeah.
ChatGPT does is that you enter certain words, and ChatGPT predicts what the best answer would be.
Yeah.
And because there's so much information, most of the time the predictions are correct. Like if you're
Yeah.
asking for, "Hey, can you describe a cup of tea?" It
Hmm.
will describe a cup of tea, not a steak, because there's so much information about a cup of tea. I don't know
A
what I
cup
thought
of
about
tea.
steak. I think I'm hungry. Um,
That does sound delicious, though. Okay,
but
we're
but
taking
that's
a
the
break.
thing.
Just kidding.
Actually, it'd be good to take a break just to remind people to subscribe and
Yeah,
like
like
the
and
video.
subscribe. Just see that? That's what we call a segue.
Total segue. So like,
Yes.
subscribe in YouTube and or subscribe to the podcast if you prefer the audio version,
Yes.
and follow us on Instagram on
Why we write fantasy.
there we go.
Yes. So my background is actually neuroscience, and I see a lot of parallels here too with ChatGPT and AI versus creativity and novel thinking, idiosyncratic thinking. Is that there was a study done? It was a few years ago on freeform jazz composers, and that's sort of like the jazz that sounds like. For me, it
Mhm.
sounds like I have no idea what's happening, right? But what happened in the brain during free form jazz composition, meaning just go with it, just shut down your critical centers in your brain and just don't follow any rules, is that the areas of the brain that were actually switched on was the emotional centers of the brain, and the front parts of our brain, which is the critical thinking, which
Mhm.
is basically our top down approach. We know the architecture of, A, B, and C, this is how something works, actually was silence, and it was the emotional center, the bottom up thinking, the creative thinking, that was actually coming up with new ideas. And now that's something that I don't think AI can do. It can't come
Yeah,
up with these completely new novel ideas because the way humans do that is to tap into a center of our brain that AI won't have in our lifetime, and that's emotions, right?
yeah. Yes and no. So
Okay.
yes, in the sense that like yeah,
Yeah.
ChatGPT doesn't have any emotions. It's again, it's just a tool to predict text. That's it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but what happens with new ideas? Like most of the new ideas come from all the inputs that we have as humans. So
Yes.
if I lived, like just one example, I lived in Mexico for 35 years and I moved to Toronto. Um,
Yes.
my my experiences that have built my how my
It's
brain works
in psychological terms, that's called a world schema.
is world schema. So everything that
Yeah.
has built my world schema is makes me build write the things that I write, read the things that I like
Yes.
to read. Like we're just talking about like I like
Why
dark
you don't
and
like
dark.
cozy.
Yeah, I don't like cozy because that was something happened. But I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
someone close to me, I'm pretty sure my sister would love cozy because
Mm.
she likes those things sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, but what I'm saying is that even though ChatGPT doesn't have the experience, it has all the learnings from the
Right.
past. So anything that we put into ChatGPT can be used to generate new ideas. So it is
Mhm.
possible that there's some new ideas. I still doubt that it
Not
can be done today,
yet. Yeah.
but it might be possible in the future.
So
Maybe, yeah,
AI could write a literary novel
yeah, for sure.
in the future.
I'm pretty sure it will.
Okay,
Like
so
if you
I'm
think
gonna
about like
retrain now for a new job.
no, no, but I think like think about it. Like I understand why it's concerning for people
Mhm.
who live out this, but
Yeah.
AI has been used for like in the medical field for a long time.
Yeah.
So AI is it has so much data that it can identify diseases way better than a human can.
Mhm.
So and it's because all this data, like even if you're like the most advanced doctor, your brain power cannot retain all the information that is available, and you cannot even
Yes.
read all the papers that your
Yeah.
fellow doctors are putting out there. You
I
can't.
don't remember the Krebs cycle, like, let's be real.
Yeah, yeah, it's impossible. Like sometimes you read a
Yeah.
book. I'm pretty sure it happens to you. It happens to me. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You read a book, and maybe it wasn't that interesting, so you forget.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you remember you read it. It kind of like
Yeah.
sounds familiar,
Yeah.
but you will not be able to tell what is it about. You would remember that how it made me feel like this, but you remember what it's about.
You'll always remember the emotional memories.
Exactly.
Always.
The
Yeah, yeah.
the thing with AI and is that they can actually remember everything because everything is in the
Yeah.
database.
Yeah.
So with all the information we have, with all the books, it will be able to write a novel. It might
Mhm.
not be groundbreaking novel
Right.
because it will use what works
Right.
and it will use the three-act structure or
Yeah.
Save the Cat that you were reading before. Like
Yeah.
all those structures, it will use that to write it, and it will be pretty engaging. The reader will not be able to tell, and honestly, the reader doesn't really care as long as the story is fun, the story is
If they
engaging.
don't know, they probably won't care,
Yeah,
but I still think that there's a lot of fear, but I'm wondering though, okay, so we have this it is a huge shift that is happening and it's going really quickly right now.
it's really
And
fast. Yeah,
you really fast and creators and writers are concerned, but how can we adopt AI into our writing? Like what is the good part that we actually might get out of AI? Because we hear a lot of garbage out there. We hear a lot of, doom mongering and negativity about AI. And to be honest, I'm scared too because this is my job.
yeah.
So, but what can we do, Oscar? And how do you see this going?
That's again, this is my point of view. I
Yes.
don't see the future and don't work in machine learning or anything, but I can tell you how I use AI.
Yeah.
Um, like I'm I'm a very concise person in general in my
Yes.
life. So
Yes.
sometimes for me when I'm writing, I just write like, okay, so the protagonist enters the room
Hmm.
and then the reader will be like, okay, it's just like four
Anchor me
walls and
somewhere.
that's it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I struggle like doing this description. So sometimes what I do with ChatGPT is like, okay, the room has a bed, a window, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Can you write a quick description for me? And then it writes the description, and I read it like,
Yeah.
oh, it's actually good.
Yeah.
So I never really use it like copy paste, but I get an idea on how can it be described.
That's a really good idea.
So those things,
Yeah.
writer's block, another one, as I mentioned, like
Hmm.
just you can just tell ChatGPT like, hey ChatGPT, I'm having writer's block because ChatGPT knows what
Yeah.
writer's block is. Uh,
There's a lot out there, mostly by lamenting
yeah,
authors.
yeah. So ChatGPT is aware of that,
Yeah.
and it will be like, hey, give me one prompt to write, or give
Yeah.
me three prompts, and ChatGPT will generate these three prompts, and then you will write them.
Right.
And that's kind of like having someone beside you to say, like sometimes I do that with my wife. Like it's like I
Yeah.
don't know what to write. Like, do you have any ideas? And she comes with sometimes the most like I don't know, like crazy things, and
Wild.
say,
Yeah.
hey, write about I don't know, like a book that comes to life. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna write a couple of paragraphs, but at least gets me going.
Yeah.
So uh, using ChatGPT that way could be a good idea. Another thing that I can think of is, so I'm totally against this in general as the system, but I know that marketing falls a lot into writers' hands, which I
Yes.
don't like it because
Yes.
writers are good at writing, marketers are good at marketing.
Yeah.
Why should a writer be had to market their own thing?
It's a
I have
whole
that's
nother
my that's
episode.
a
That's
whole
like
other
a
episode.
whole course.
Totally different. But
And
what
I
I'm
do
gonna
write in marketing. So,
but what I want to say there is
yeah.
that the you can use ChatGPT to generate your social media posts,
Yeah.
like
To
those
some
type of
extent.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
We do. We use some chat GBT here to help us with some descriptions, some meta, stuff like that. But it's used very much as some ideas, some
inspiration.
particular words. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sort of thing. Because I always edit it because it's not
yeah,
what I want.
exactly. You
But
you
it,
want
it
your
gets me
voice to be there.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's a starting point for me, definitely.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's more like use it as a starting point, not as a
Yes.
final output.
Exactly. We haven't actually talked about like futuristic sci-fi novels and how. So we do know that because science fiction is becoming science fact now. It's
Yeah,
just kind of a
yeah.
saying that's going around. I'm pretty sure it's going around on Twitter. But anywho, how how do you think the actual stories that we tell in sci-fi are going to change simply because science fiction is now becoming in some part our
Mhm.
reality? Do you see a difference? You're the sci-fi reader. I am not a sci-fi reader.
I
So what do
am.
you think?
I think they will change for sure, but I think one of the things that sci-fi has is that if you read sci-fi, like if you read Asimov in the 70s,
Mhm.
and you
Mhm.
read, I don't know, William Gibson, like Neuromancer, in
Mhm.
the 90s, I think it was late 90s or late 80s, I don't
Even
remember.
Orwell, 1984.
Yeah, George Orwell,
Yeah,
1984,
yeah,
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
written almost 80 years ago, I think.
Yeah, a long
So
time.
what you will see is that it usually deals with the unsolved problems of our current world.
Right.
Like, I mean, I've talked about Cyberpunk before. So Cyberpunk is crime, is drugs, it's all the things that were a big issue, like unsolved issue in
In
the
the
United States, where
80s.
Cyberpunk was born in the
Mhm.
80s.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk right now doesn't make a lot of sense because there's a lot of things, like if you read Cyberpunk, you have flying cars. If
Mhm.
you take a look at Blade Runner, you have the flying cars and everything because traffic in the 80s was, and there was no alternative to that. Now,
Mhm.
because you see all the main cities going more like making like a 15-minute city, making everything available closer to
Mhm.
you, so you need to take
Yeah.
to grab a car. A lot of people, younger people, don't have a driver's license.
And nor do they want now in urban
Why would they want a
centers.
driver's
Gen
license?
Z, they're like, no
Yeah,
car for me, no license, I'm good.
exactly. So
Yeah.
Cyberpunk doesn't really stand. So right now, the new sci-fi is going to deal with the issues that we are dealing with right now. One is
Right.
generative AI, which that's one of the things that has been around for a long time, like AI,
Yeah.
like thinking machines that can think. Like you can
Yeah.
you can look at the Matrix.
Yeah.
I mean,
Extreme.
Terminator,
And
New,
Terminator. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Neuromancer. Neuromancer actually deals with something like that, but in general, is I see sci-fi changing
Mm.
because it's always evolving. Like again,
Yeah.
if you read Asimov from the what they call the golden age of sci-fi, and I'm using air quotes because I don't think it's a golden age. I just think it was the beginning
Right.
of sci-fi.
That's when it became popular.
It became popular.
Right.
It was totally different than now. Like back then, it was mostly concept and plot, and character was like, yeah, there are characters there, but they're only tools to move the plot forward.
Yeah.
Um, and if you read Foundation from Asimov, those things, you will see that. And now sci-fi is it's a story. It's just stories
Mhm.
located in the future. So a lot of things change. Um, but again, just to say, like, I think it's hard to not to be afraid, especially if
Mhm.
you see your job um,
Yeah.
threatened. But
Yeah.
there's so many AI is impacting so many different industries. Just to
Yeah.
let you know, like I learned to code in early 2000,
Phew,
and
you're so old,
it
Oscar.
was I said it was this one start when I started working in tech.
Yeah.
And back then we actually had to code and type each line and then debug, and something wasn't working, so you had to go and look at it. Now you
Yeah.
can actually ask ChatGPT, like, I need a code for this, and they will generate the code for you. So
Really?
yeah.
That's
So and
bananas.
actually generating code is way easier than generating like a normal conversation, because code has a lot of rules and it's a way smaller language than the English language or Spanish language.
Yeah.
So it's more narrow.
Hmm.
So it does that. So a lot of people, like, if I wanted to go back into coding, I'll have to relearn everything, because
Yeah.
now whatever I did 20-25 years ago can be done by ChatGPT way better than I
Yeah.
had to. Because ChatGPT, you can ask for a code that does that. You can ask for comments explaining what the code is doing, and then you get a perfect code without
Yeah.
having to know how to code. And thinking about another thing, I just thought about it. Like, a lot of writers need to have their own website, and
Yes.
some people use tools that exist already, but you can
Yeah.
actually ask ChatGPT to code a website for you.
Can you really?
Yeah, it's
That's
HTML. So
bananas.
yeah, it's again, it's a programming language. They're pretty narrow. There's rules
Yeah.
there. So you can ask ChatGPT to generate a script, or if you're doing something
Mm.
in Word and you need a macro, you can ask ChatGPT to create a macro for you.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things where how writers can use AI.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to change. It's going to change the writing world. It's changing it already. It will change in the
Hmm.
future.
Yeah. I
Um,
feel the impact
yeah,
already.
you feel the
I
impact.
definitely
Yeah,
do. Yeah. I write and do a lot of content and marketing writing, and I do definitely feel an impact right now
yeah,
happening. So I'm going to be a best-selling novelist, just so you know. This is where I'm going
exactly.
now.
That's yeah.
This is
But I
my new
mean,
dream.
to be fair, I don't think anyone gets into the writing business for money.
Oh my god, no, and we're gonna have a whole episode lamenting on that.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just bring your bourbon because it's gonna be sad.
I really hope I was
Wow.
able to answer the questions.
This is amazing. It was so it was so informative for me too, because to be honest, I am a lot of the times I am quite afraid and I feel really down about the future of like my future. And it's not even just, being able to make money, which yes, it is. That is the most important thing, is to be able to support yourself, roof over your head, feed your kids, yada yada yada. But this is also something that I've been working on for the last, I don't know, almost 40 years. I have been writing. It is my passion. It is my identity. And it feels really disingenuous, and it makes me a little angry to think that people are saying, oh no, chat GPT or AI is going to write the next novel. And it's like, well, that's 2-3 years of my life of hard work. How can you say that? But I can see how we can use it as writers, we can use it, but I don't think that we can just say, hey, chat GPT, write a novel about XYZ, and then it populates something, and then we send it to KU Kindle Unlimited, and there we are, indie publishers, indie
Yeah,
authors.
yeah,
So I definitely do think that there's will always be a place for talented writers. But I do think that, on our part as writers, we need to up the ante. We really need to hone our skill. Take courses, get writer friends, writer groups. We're going to be talking about writer communities very soon. All these things to help us become better writers, because becoming a better writer also means becoming better humans, because we learn more about other people, which at the end of the day is what all of our novels are about,
Yeah,
is
it's
people or
about the
dragons
people. Yeah.
or cyborgs. But anyways, thank you so much, Oscar. I'm so grateful for your input on this. It feels good to have this knowledge and not to feel so uninformed in this very changing world. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's I mean I love AI. I love tech. I
Yeah.
read a lot of especially if a book about AI comes out, I'm gonna read it. And I think, as I
Yeah.
said, like I think right now the progress progress is going to continue,
Yeah.
like Terry
Whether we like
Pratchett
it or not.
said. Terry Pratchett said in one of his books, like progress is something like it's just to say that bad thing happened faster. So it's it's uh it's going to happen. So I
Yeah.
think the only thing we need to do is continue. But again, like you said before, there's always going to be a the appreciation from the consumer
Mhm.
from something is written by a human. Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, like if someone comes out in your, I don't know, someone gives you a photo of you that they took with their phone, you'll be like, okay, thank you. But if someone gives you a drawing, like drawn by hand, it would be
Yes.
completely different. You might actually
That's
hang that in your
perfect.
cupboard. So it's
Yeah.
what I'm saying is not that one is better than the other one, is that you appreciate that a photo may have taken this
Mhm.
person in a phone just a second to do it, while the other one it might take him hours.
Yeah.
So you
There's care put
there's
into it.
that
Yeah.
care, and as a
Yeah.
society we haven't lost that, and I don't think we will ever will.
I love that.
There will be a market for AI generated stories, but there'll also be a market for
Yeah.
people who like to hear what another human, a fellow human, wants to
Yes,
tell.
one of us,
Yeah,
human,
exactly.
not the robots.
Right, right.
Well, thank you so much, Oscar, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode about writing in the age of AI. This was really informative for me. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you also on Instagram at Why We Write Fantasy, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.